What's up, guys? Tom here for feelonTopPlus.com, and today we are here for episode number 25.
And we're just noticing Tom's energy levels a little bit low there compared to mine. I've just sort of,
See, this is the difference between you and me, Dad, is I've evolved past the competitive stage. You know?
Right.
It's not dog-eat-dog world for me.
Louise has just pulled up.
Oh, it's typical. I don't care. So you see, it's typical. It is typical thing. When you press record on anything,
something
is going to fucking happen.
That's right.
Every time.
Well, you mind not using that word happen in front of our constituents.
You know what?
It
You know
was
what?
next door.
It was next door.
I do mind. I don't mind. I don't even know what the thing is, because one thing we've learnt, Dad, is we've got to be real. We have to be ourselves. So if there's a bit of swearing, especially in a podcast, that's fine. Case in point, I put up a video. We've talked about this before. You've got to be yourselves. You've got to put your opinion out there, which is one thing I did not want to do more so in the Yummy Cereal stuff, which is my gaming channel. And then I had to put up a video on Sunday. Mum uploaded it for me because I wasn't here.
Yeah.
And it was a video on the footy.
Right.
And I did not censor myself at all. I was saying how...
I did notice that when I watched
I was saying how much I hated every other team and how I wanted them just to fail and die.
For the people that are listening, you actually have a Yummy Cereal.
We've talked about it before. I got a gaming channel where
channel.
we record gameplay and people will like it. It's entertaining.
And you have subscribers.
We have subscribers.
You've even made some money on it.
Yeah, made some money on it. Anyway, I did that, so I put my opinion out there. That video got 60 views and it got like 15 comments within the first day or something like that. They loved it. Brilliant. So
What were some of the comments they were saying?
Well,
I don't think we need to have that conversation on the podcast.
Why?
Was it people
wasn't.
people disagreeing with you going,
No, I don't think so. I
Right.
think they were pretty. They were fine. I said at the start of the video. I said at the start of the video, this is footy, and you know what? If you like Richmond, I'm going to hate Richmond. And I said that in the video. I said I hate Richmond, and I hope they die. I can't stand it.
You actually pretty well basically hated everybody.
I got a comment like that. He said, "You pretty much want everybody to fail except Desmond." I said, "Yeah." I replied to his comment, "Yeah, that's right." So the point is that you got to get your opinion out there because people like it, and you're not there. Like, who said it? I forget who it said. Maybe it was Maria Andros. You're going out to the masses, but you're not speaking to the masses. That sort of thing. So if we're using it for our business, for example, do we want to be attracting people who are offended by swearing? And if you swear, they're gonna cry.
No.
We don't want to work with somebody like that because, let's face it. I mean, I can clean myself up, but chances are something's going to slip out, just what happened before. So
yeah, I mean,
I know there's a time and a place, but I know what about when we spoke to Terry? He swore.
Did he?
He swore to us. He was fine with us. And,
Right.
and imagine if we were one of those people who just were really offended by swearing. I don't think that would gel.
Yeah,
we wouldn't gel well with him, would we?
No.
But then you probably, I mean, if that was the case, then you would probably have not picked him as a person to actually speak to, would you?
Exactly, probably. Anyway, that's the point. If you're doing any marketing at all, be yourself. And you should be yourself. That's important. You're not speaking to everybody. You really want to attract people like you. There's plenty of people out there. Anyway, so that's a nice little point to start off the podcast. We've got 4
Tom's
minutes.
words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom, I think.
Tom's
so.
words of wisdom for the day.
Well, 60 views doesn't lie, Mum.
Oh, like hello.
Well, the idea of this, branding is trying to sort of find that, authenticity, and we're in a world because of the videos, etc., etc. People can pick. Would you agree? They can pick. I don't know. I can watch. I've been through that shiny object syndrome, and you watch a video, and you can tell it's some actors. Some ClickBank product, and they've got these actors on in some big house, and it's like, and that really, in the beginning, got me in. But until I learned,
Mum showed me one of those videos once with the actors. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is so bad.
Well, anyway.
Can I just to butt in and whatever else like that, but you know how you just said shiny object syndrome and whatever. Well, it was quite funny because I was doing a PowerPoint because Phil's got a webinar tomorrow night. Anyhow, so I was doing this PowerPoint for him, and I was thinking, And I actually went into Google and typed in shiny object syndrome. Should have seen the bucket load of stuff that come up. So you know how I did that little image on the presentation and I put SOS under it and put shiny object syndrome. That was not my imagination whatsoever. That is on Google. There is just just a sidetrack. So yes, go on. There you go.
So you've been reading a book, Tom, the Anthony Robbins.
Yes, Dad, I can read, yes.
What's the book called?
It's called Money Master the Game, Tony Robbins' new book.
Money Masters Game?
Master the Game.
Master the Game, yeah. And so have you read the whole thing? Or because it's a pretty thick book.
I've not. It's about 616 pages.
Right.
And I've read about 3/4 of the way through it.
So do you find it pretty dry or is it interesting? How long do you read? How long do you read for with it?
Well, my theory, at the start of the year, I wanted to study 2 subjects. One was wealth, and one was gratitude. So I came up with this theory that I'd read. I wanted to do it habit-wise, so I'm not going to go out too hard too early where I burn out and I stop reading. It's got to be a daily action. So I said I'll divide the number of pages in the book by the number of days in the month, and that's how many pages I read a day. Right. So Tony Robbins, if I was going to read that in a month, I would have to read 20 pages a day, which I know I can't do. So just forget that. 2 months for that. So I only have to read 10 pages a day, and that works well. That's been working. Haven't missed a day. And it is he keeps marketing when he's out promoting it. He keeps marketing it as a thing to level the game for people who aren't in the financial industry. They don't know what they're doing, and stuff like that. And he says the financial industry overcomplicates it and use words that overcomplicates and language that overcomplicates the entire industry or place of finances and investing and stuff
possibly,
like that.
I don't know if the words intimidate, but maybe intimidates or confuses.
Sounds
over the top to most people, so they shut down.
They shut down. And so he's marketing it as a book where he simplifies it. Now he probably has simplified it, but still, when you're reading the book, there's still a lot of stuff, and that will go over people's heads. It goes over my head. And what's interesting is he assumes you know what it is. He said in multiple interviews, everybody knows what a mutual fund is. What the fuck is a mutual fund?
Yeah, I don't even know what a mutual fund is.
I have no idea.
I have some idea.
Yeah.
I have some idea, but it's.
But in saying that, so I just wanted to get that point across. But in saying that, I have learned some things. It has, and I'm not going to say I've learned it like action-wise, but I've learned it intellectually. It's opened my mind. It's expanded my awareness. So I thought probably about 2 weeks ago, I said I've got to read this book again, and I'll pick something else up. But there's a few principles that he goes over. Like the details, I get lost in. I probably get lost in the details. But there's a few exercises that we should do. But there's the principles that he talks about. You understand it. One thing is, he said he interviewed. The way he wrote the book was he interviewed the most 50 best investors in the world, essentially. And he said the common thing with entrepreneurs and investors is that everybody thinks is that they're all about risk. Good people want to take risks, and that's true. But he said the number one thing about the best investors in the world is that they are obsessed. They are absolutely obsessed with not losing money. They are so obsessed with not losing money, and if there's an upside, that's great, but they have to make sure the downside is extremely small. That's one of their rules. He said that with all of them, which is interesting because I've always thought, they risk and stuff like that.
I guess there's a small degree of risk for them.
Well, it's investing, so yeah. And he also said the average returns. It was about, I think, the market average return is about 6%, and nobody ever beats the market. Nobody beats the market. That's what he said. You're not going to beat the market.
I think they're interesting figures. 6% sounds low to me.
He said the average of the market.
Right, fair enough.
I could be wrong because he's always talking about 6 to 10%, and he said 7, 8, 9 in certain things. So I might be getting mixed up with something.
Well, that makes sense.
But it's in that area, and he said you can't pick the market. And he said picking stocks, like trying to pick the best stocks, is not the way to go about it. The best investors in the world, they don't do that. That's what he said.
Yeah. What do they do? Do you think? Do you remember?
I can't remember, but I know he did say instead of investing in like one company, for example, and trying to pick the best company and trying to get the best time, you invest in an index, which is investing in all the companies, like a bunch of companies, like the S&P 500 he talks about,
Right.
which is I think is the American stock market. Or something
I think we
like
might have the Dow Jones index
Yeah.
here, possibly.
that. So I'm assuming the Dow Jones is like 500 of the best Australian
Yeah.
companies.
Mm.
So when you invest in the index, a low fund index I think it's called, you invest, you get a bit of all those companies or something like that. And again, this is a part of the details that I don't understand, but I think that's natural when you've never studied something before. I haven't really studied wealth before. I've done a little bit, like with Robert Kiyosaki, he goes over principles, but I haven't gone into any details or anything. And this book goes into more details.
How's the time going?
We're at 10 minutes.
The thing I sort of remember, you know, I haven't read the whole book, I just read little snippets, but one thing that sort of really appealed was, you know, when people are starting out, and we started out, and he was talking about this idea of, you know, instead of consuming, you know, start investing.
Yeah.
He talked about it. I don't know if I've got the word.
He said stop being a consumer and become an owner or something like that. Or
Sure.
something like that.
I think it was investing, and I think he was sort of basically saying, you know, man, we just consume, you know, so much, and I really relate to that because in our path, in our trajectory, we certainly were looking at this issue of consuming. What is it, you know, keeping up with the Joneses, and we invested early when we were younger. We invested early. We were only 23. Mum was 20. I was 23, something like that.
Yeah.
Started investing then. And we didn't have the best car. We didn't even have a house. Didn't even have a house, sorry. But even when we got a house, it wasn't the best house. You know, we've always looked at that, haven't we? Wondered, you know, there's been people around us and they spend.
Yeah.
And thinking, I remember Graham McLean, he's a multi-millionaire in Sydney I met when I was in my mid-30s. And he said, you know...
Were you that old when we met, Graham?
Yeah, I was in my mid-30s, and he basically said, look, you know, 3 things, and he talked about clothes, he talked about travel, and he talked about cars. He said those things there, man, you know, people just spend, you know, so much money on that. Whereas Anthony Robbins gave this analogy of, you know, look, you know, what if you just sort of pull back a bit? You know, you didn't go out for tea and you bought some pizzas and it saves you $40 a week. And he said that's like $160 a month, which is like, and he sort of rounded it off to about $2,000 a year.
Yeah, and that goes into one of the big keys in the book that he's talking about, which I forgot about, is he keeps talking about compound growth.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well,
everyone should do a compound interest exercise, and you can get them on Google if no one knows what we're talking about. But you can get them on Google, where you can just put in an exercise, and you would be surprised how much our little bit grows with compound interest. It's amazing.
Another bloke that I met, I'm not sure, might have been in my 40s, and his name was John Fitzgerald, and he was a property developer, and he would become a millionaire at 23 years of age. He's what I call a freak of nature, an old soul. And anyway, he basically talks about that. He talks about, he puts it this way. And so what were your words? You said compound growth, is that what you said?
Yeah.
And so I love the way he sort of said it, you know, because it sort of hit me, you know, because I used to go and listen to him. And I still listen to him. And he said, find a way to put a structure in place to take advantage of compound growth. So there's just a statement. Find a way to put a structure in place to take advantage of compound growth. But then he went further and he said, and compound growth is growth on growth. And I think that's important because most people go, well, what's compound growth? Yeah. And that's what it is. It's growth on growth. Growth on growth on growth. Growth on growth on growth on growth. And so this particular guy was in the property market. And so he was relating it to properties. If you have, is 2 properties better than 1? Is 3 properties better than 2? Is 4 properties better than 3? That type of thinking. That made sense to me. It sort of, I related to that. I thought, oh, okay. And I think another thing with Anthony Robbins and the book that I I sort of knew this. I was telling you about this, and he talked about. I think he calls it the 9 lies of marketing. The myths. And he really has a bit of a bone with the financial services industry. And as I read the book, he was basically alluding to the fact that if people basically don't do that and actually learn to invest the money themselves, that it's probably worth $250,000 to $600,000 in their lifetime. And he was basically saying that...
You didn't say... You said if they don't do that, they don't do what? You didn't say.
If they choose to go down the path of going to wealth planners and financial planners and this type of thing, and he said they're all nice people, they all mean the best, but there's fees and there's hidden fees within fees.
Yeah.
And he said the fees and the hidden fees within fees will cost you $250,000 to $600,000, depending on how much you earn and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I've always sort of, not always, I'm in my mid-30s, and I sort of thought, right, remember that? Right, we're gonna, we earn the money, we're gonna handle the money. We'll work that out. And so I thought that was a really great observation. Very hard to communicate that, but he'd done the research and he had all the facts. I'd never had it. Sort of was really more on a feeling, basically. So we, from the mid-30s, we have not paid people, to invest money really, because of that particular issue. The other thing that I really liked about what he said, just to sort of finish up, he really, and this is something that we become aware of, I'm not sure, mid-30s possibly, was the tax issue and minimising tax and knowing and trying to be aware of your costs. And that tax, he said it this way, he said, what's the most expensive thing you'll ever have in your life?
Besides from a wife.
Besides from a wife.
That was pretty good for me, actually. I get a tick for that one.
Yeah, you do. Is tax, and man, I mean, I know over the years, we looked at that, and there were some years we actually paid no tax. We actually got to a point where we paid no tax, and the reason was because we were landlords and we had investments, and the government deemed us to be contributing to society by putting houses or building houses. Yeah. And they said, okay, well, if you build a house here, there and there, then we will give you, some benefits. And so we watched over the years our tax, did actually get to zero at a couple of points. I'm not sure what it is now because I don't actually do the books. Janine does the books. But I used to watch that, basically. And the moral to the story is that people in jobs get slaughtered. They get slaughtered tax-wise. So quite often it's an illusion. Oh, I'm making 100 grand a year, I'm making 150 grand a year, I'm making 200 grand a year, but they get slaughtered tax-wise. And that's partly why, they can have really high-paying jobs and not really go anywhere long term.
But I mean, I just, I cannot fathom. I can't fathom. I don't understand how someone could be in a job for say $70,000 or $80,000, right? And they haven't worked out that they're paying half the way.
I can fathom that.
I can fathom
it easy.
I can fathom that easy. I've barely been in a job before. And I can fathom that based off what my friends talk about all the time. And Joe, I'm going to talk about Joe.
I'm a bit surprised you said that.
Joe has gone.
How people let themselves. Why would you say, okay, so 70,000, 80,000 is probably not a good thing, but say you were in a job that paid $150,000 and you have at this point in time, the light has not come on with your tax situation.
I can fathom that so easily.
You would be working
your butt off.
Hang on, let me finish what I'm saying.
I'm trying to cut you off here, man.
You'd be working your butt off for $150,000 for a boss, right? You're not getting ripped off by the tax man, because the tax man's doing his legitimate job and he's charging you tax and you're paying it. You're just too stupid to do something with it. But somebody else is probably taking home more pay with less debt without the stress.
Maybe.
and paying less
Maybe.
tax.
But my simple answer to that, the way that I fathom it over the years, is that all those problems are tied to
The ego.
the human ego, because that's that. You know, they have a think about it. Oh, I'm earning 150 grand a year. You know, and they shine. Look at me. You know, and they got the car, they got the house, and it's an illusion largely. And it's really it's not wealth. It's not rich. It's just financial illiteracy.
That's it. See, that's the problem. See, that's the thing. That's what I was going to talk about. I've got friends, and I've got one friend, Joe, goes from job to job to job. He's leaving another job. He bought into a business. He's going to another job now because he hates it. Was surprised. Didn't see that coming. And he's working like 7 days a week at the moment. He doesn't have time to do anything. So he's leaving that job. Now he's going to a new job, and he's always talking about, oh, I can earn this much. I can earn this much. It's like, oh my god.
That's why.
You just, and I got so mad. And let me just qualify this. You have to understand where I'm coming from. I've grown up. First of all, I'm only 23. I've grown up in a house where we're always talking about wealth. We're always talking about financial freedom. I've barely had a job. I've had.
When you say always, I mean it's really not. It's not always. I mean.
Well, when I say always, I haven't got the
People
tradition.
are going to think.
I haven't got the traditional. The traditional talk, and I know what is the traditional talk. I'm going to go to Jacob. I asked him one day because I thought people just said this.
This is
in
a good
books.
point. Yeah.
I thought they just said this in books, and I asked him, "Have your parents ever said go to school, get good grades, and get a good job?" And he said yes, and I couldn't believe that because I thought they just made it up in the books, and he actually got that advice. I never got that.
No, we never said.
So my experience is not in the job market. It's always been talking about wealth and financial freedom, especially since about 17 from now to now.
Yeah.
So yes, I actually get frustrated when people talk about earning more money in a job.
Oh, you were talking about your friend that's
Yes.
going back to uni.
Yes, and I have a friend.
Yes.
I saw her the other day, and she was talking about. And this friend is similar to Louise. She's very smart, phenomenal work ethic, and I'm just thinking. She's in the employee quadrant. If we're talking about
That's right, yeah.
and as she was saying, I'm thinking you're in the employee quadrant. Good luck. God, she's smart. She works hard, and she's talking about how she's going to go up. You know, I might get promoted and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, it's just not going to happen. You're just this is from my opinion, from based off my background. In my background, and this is where I would usually hold back, but because I've got to say my opinion, I just think you are so fucked. You are just completely fucked. You're going to go nowhere financially, and it annoys me. It makes me mad. I don't know why. I can feel it in my body.
I don't look at it that way. I look at it, you know, people are wherever they're at, and you listen to the language of the people, and what I query, okay, is when that person talks, and I'm going to, you know, I could get a promotion, I could do this, and so there's a certain language, there's a certain lingo. Now that there's come from somewhere, and it's very hard to undo that. I mean, I was talking to people today. These are business people, and you know, and this is something that I've known for quite a long time. I just listen to their words. One bloke says to me, he goes, "Mate," he basically saying, "My business is going so bad." It was these are the words that he used, and I'm thinking, man, I mean, keep saying that. I mean, where's that going to take you? You listen to their words. So the point is, with the people in the education arena, they've been, I don't know, the word might be duped. I don't know if the words are duped.
Well, they've been programmed.
Yeah, they've been programmed. Yeah, everyone's programmed. We're programmed, and it's a choice. And so,
that's my point. That's my point. She's been programmed. Yes, I understand that. I've done a lot of work with Bob Proctor on that stuff, so I understand that. But that still doesn't change the fact that when I hear that stuff, it annoys me. It just annoys me. Like when Louise comes home, and like if you told me like 3 years ago that this stuff would annoy me, it wouldn't. Maybe because I was just I don't know what's changed. But when Louise comes home and she says, or I have to work late again and you're not getting paid, it drives me nuts. I don't know why would that affect me at all? But I hate that, and I hate the idea of her going into a job, because I just think. And again, this is based off my programming that I've had. But I think anybody who's working in a job, good fucking luck.
Well, I'll tell you, look, in
terms of finances and in terms of joy, because everything that I've read is just, you're going to be trading your time for money. And to me, what is your time? You're trading your life away for money. And
Well-
I understand it. I know people have to have jobs and it pays the bills. But that's all, from my point of view. That's what it does. That's all it does.
Well,
It pays the bills.
well,
You're not going to go anywhere else with a job.
I think. Look, looking at that, I've had jobs. I had a job when I was Louise's age and your friend's age. When I was your age, I had a job. But here's the difference. And so I don't knock jobs in a lot of ways. I think they serve their purpose, and everybody's got a time. And so I did a job, and I really knew nothing. I had no financial literacy at all. All I knew is I wanted to do well, but I didn't know really how that was going to be. So what I did is I proved myself in the job, as you're explaining with Louise and your friend, and I proved that I was a cut above the rest, which took about 8 years, by the way. But I still didn't know where to take that energy. I didn't know where to take that energy. And it was only until my mid-30s that I thought, oh, maybe I take that energy here. And so for me, it was a very, I can relate to the job type person because I was in there and I had to transition from job type mentality to, maybe business person.
Well, this is a part of the qualification that I have to say to people listening, is that what Dad just said, you had to transition from the job mentality. I haven't had to do that.
I did.
I haven't had to do that.
No,
I've been brought up like 6,
That's
17.
true, yeah, that's true.
With all this,
That's
since
exactly
14, I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 14.
Yeah, that's true.
So I haven't had that job mentality. So that's why.
Well, that's saved you. I mean, with where you're at, if you say take the Anthony Robbins advice and the 9 lies of marketing, which I think we've got that right.
Myths.
Myths. You've basically, literally saved yourself $250,000. That's like having $250,000 in your lifetime to 600,000. So that's one of the interesting things about me per se is that I've been through job land and I understand what I went through to transition. That's why I get annoyed at the internet marketing industry or the online marketing industry and all the crap that they put out. They totally miss this issue of the mental transition. We've got some people who tried to do that, but oh man, it can take years. And here they are trying to make $1 million, literally overnight.
Well, there's a good point about that. Like maybe it isn't a good point. I don't know, but I always think about. I always talk about money in front of my friends.
Yeah.
Always
You're comfortable.
I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, blah blah blah. And I'm only recently learned. I've been doing that since I was 17. At 17, I constantly say, "How's work going?" I'm a multi-millionaire. I made $100,000 last weekend speaking on stage. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm only recently learning now, and especially probably over the last 2 weeks. I don't know what's happened, but I'm just like, I don't want to talk about money in front of my friends anymore. First of all, because they just don't care. They're not interested. They don't care. Like Eric, like he's open-minded to the entrepreneurial stuff and because his parents were in Amway and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh dude, you got to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to know. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to keep this stuff to myself.
That's right.
Good luck.
Well, I think
good luck with the jobs. I hope one day, and this is maybe arrogance from my point of view. I don't know, but it's from my programming. I hope you get out of that job situation because from my perspective, I haven't been in jobs much, but when I was in a job, I hated it. I fucking hated it so much. It was just the worst thing. I was scared when my phone rang because I'm like, oh, they're going to call me in today. I don't want to go in there. So I hope. I don't want to talk to them about it because I know they're not interested and they're not going to listen and they don't care because they're doing their own stuff. But I hope one day they like. I don't know. I remember you said something to me once. And we're going on for ages here, but whatever. You said something to me once. Before, it was about the same time when I said I want to leave school and I want to come work with you at Country World Media, sales. And you said, I thought, I'm glad you've come to me, and you might dispute this, but I remember you saying it. I'm glad you've come to me because I thought what would happen is you'd go to uni or something, or you'd get a job for a couple of years, and then you'd figure out what I do and you'd come and talk to me.
That's not my recollection.
That's what you said. That's absolutely what you said.
Okay, this is an interesting.
Absolutely what you said.
Okay. So who's right? Who's
okay,
wrong?
I'll tell you what.
So now I feel like this, and you said it, buddy. I'm not backing down. That's what you said. Now.
That's not what
now. Here's what I think. I hope, and okay, whatever you think, but this is my thoughts now. I hope if my friends, because I just can't see them going anywhere in a job, because I think it's just a fucked up system. Maybe it worked in the industrial age. I was reading Robert Kiyosaki today, industrial age, but now that stuff, it's fucked. It doesn't work. So I hope one day they come to me and say, "Hey Tom, you know what? You're doing all right financially. Can you help me out? Oh, here's a book. Read it. It's so good. It's going to help you so much."
Well,
now, this is great. You know what's great about this? One, I'm getting my opinion out. And two, it's getting my my young 23-year-old arrogance out there for people to enjoy. So go ahead.
well, I think it's been a good little session.
Come on, Dad, hurry up and say your little lie.
Well, my recollection of that is that you were in the car and you said, I don't want to go to school next year. And I said, why not? You said, because it's negative. That's my recollection. And what do you want to do? Or what are you going to do? I'll come work with you. Anyway, what I thought, oh, this is before that. Before that, I thought, okay, look, the kids will work it out. They'll go and do this, and this, like Louise, pretty well. That's what she's doing. And they'll go and do this job, that job, and they'll work things out. And I never really had aspirations of me, I'm not really sure, passing things on. I really hadn't got to that point. But what I will say, I did actually think that, how good would it feel? Okay, now this is contradicting what I'm saying. I thought it would be good if Tom could come and work with me. There was a time when I thought that. But there was this uncomfortability about it because of the structure that was in place. So I might have said something like that at a different time. But we're actually doing that now. We're actually got a company, Phil and Tom Media, publishing and broadcasting, and what do? We help visionary families. I'm just trying to remember what we do. We help visionary families and a few emerging entrepreneurs use video to build an online brand, I think it is, make 6 and 7 figures, become financially free, and have fun while they're doing it. That's our sort of, so we're screening people out.
Yeah.
Like, we're not looking for everybody, basically, because we have a different...
And you know what? That's what's great about putting your opinion out there, because this is what she said in the training. She said if you put your opinion out there, it might rub some people off up the wrong way.
Who said that? Who said
Marie
that?
Andros.
Right. No,
so
right.
That gets rid of them.
Yeah.
And that's the screening process.
Yeah.
That's a part of the screening process,
Right.
being yourself.
Right.
How many people have we screened out today, right now?
Yeah. So yeah, it is true. Look, you're coming in from one angle, I've come in from another angle, and look, if you're listening to this today, we're going to wind this up. The fact is, I've been through several career phases.
Can I wind this up? I'd like to wind this up.
Yeah.
Okay. So today, just to wind it up, we've been going half an hour.
That was
So I had to take Mum into the doctors to get her, what do you call it? Hay fever stuff?
allergy needles.
Allergy needles, right?
Today?
No, on Monday.
Oh yeah, right.
And it was at 7 o'clock, so I couldn't do my normal mental stuff at home. So I had to take my book in, and I had to feed my mind in the car. So what I did, I went in there and I got Anthony Robbins, Volume 1 of Personal Power that we have up there. You must.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
What, the old audio cat?
No.
I know.
CD.
So I put it in, right, and I listened to the whole thing. End up listening to the whole thing on the way up there.
Wow.
And I got some ideas for videos, which is
Right.
great.
Wow.
So I have to listen from track 18 to the end because I've got some video ideas in there. But one thing that stuck out, and it seems like common sense, but it's just not. There's so much common sense out there that's just not common sense. And he said, if you want to learn, if you want to do anything in your life, you have to start studying the subject. And I think it's a great way to put it. So if you want to be wealthy, you have to start studying wealth.
Yeah,
it's a
true.
simple way
You
to
do.
put it. And
That's
it's
a
great.
good point,
It's like Jim Rohn used to say, learn to work harder on yourself than you did on your business. And
Good
when
job,
so when he says that, you think, okay, well, what? Okay, that's great, Jim. Well, what the hell does that mean? What the fuck does working on myself mean? I have no idea what that means. So when you say study the subject, I'll give you an example. Go to Amazon right now if you want to be wealthy and type in wealth and buy a book and start reading. And
Anything.
it might
Anything.
be crap at the start. For example, when I'm reading Tony Robbins' book, I'm getting a little bit, but the details I get lost in. But that's where you start, and you start to pick up things. So that's I guess that's the way that ended tonight. That's the invitation. If you want to be wealthy, or if you want to be I don't know, more physically healthy, go get go talk to a personal trainer, or go get a health book off Amazon.com. There's not one problem that you could have that hasn't been written about in a book that you could buy and read about. There's just not one.
I'm going to let you guys wind it up, so I have to go and get the beer out of the freezer because it's been in there for over half an hour. Okay.
So it's probably exploded. So
Again.
that's it. That's what we want to wrap it up. If you want to become anything in life, study the subject. And whatever that subject is, go to Amazon.com, type in the subject, wealth, health, and start reading.
Yep.
Become a really good reader. Become a vivacious reader is what Jim Rohn said.
Vivacious?
Vivacious. Jim Rohn
That's a
said
big
that.
word for Tom.
Don't forget speed reading is available today.
It is, exactly. Speed reading. Anyway,
Have a good
that's it.
week.
Have a good one. See you later.
Bye.